Good morning. Welcome to our worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence, or from living rooms and bedrooms of people associated with the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Janet Bush. I'm the congregation's minister, and I'm very glad to see you here. Thank you. Thank you to Lynn Marie Wanamaker, Teresa Mabile, Emily Quintana, Dave McSparrington, Janet Spongberg, Flora Majumder, and our Zoom hosts, Kathy Lilly and Molly Hale, for being part of this morning's team. We are Legion. Here we strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we're guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles guide us and move us to remember that we in Northampton and this valley inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples, and to acknowledge our responsibility to face the painful legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we also affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. Many of you have come to expect a poetry service on Labor Day weekend. This one has been Sarah Metcalf's Sunday for at least a decade, and she plans to be back next year. We on the worship committee have done our best to honor her example today, and we're sharing poems from one Indigenous and all the rest are African American women from the 18th century through the 21st. Some may be familiar to you, others may be new. We chose women who wrote of love, the natural world, ordinary people and experience, and of the grief, anger, injustice, and loss that accompany the stories and experiences of their peoples. If you're interested, you can find more biographical information and more of all of their poems on the website of the Poetry Foundation. We hope you find something to move, inspire, and delight you. We gather every Sunday to support and celebrate one another and to renew ourselves with hope and gratitude and new resolve. And I know that many of us feel a deep need for hope and connection in this time of uncertainty and of so many disheartening and horrible events all around the globe. So it's always good to be together. You will be hearing more about this, but next week, our in-gathering service where we celebrate with the water ceremony will be at Laurel Park. Laurel Park is the one out on Route 5 heading towards Hatfield, and there will be a lot more details coming this week about parking and logistics and all of that. So if you have questions about that, it's an outside facility that I know some of you have been at because Janet has been doing a summer service there for many years. So you'll hear more details about that this week. If you're new to us or returning after a time away, welcome. We're glad you're here. You may fill out a virtual visitor card, which Molly will put in the chat. And if you do that, we'll put you on our email contact list. We ask you to remain muted throughout the service and to turn off your videos except during the greeting, because this helps the technology work more smoothly. We invite you to stay for social hour afterwards, which is a wonderful way to engage in conversations with people you may not otherwise meet. Our opening words will come from the poet Joy Harjo, and now we'll begin our service with a wonderful prelude.
Peace. I won't stop till I see peace in this land. I won't stop till I see peace in this land. I will strive peace with love in my heart. I won't stop till I see peace in this land. I won't stop till I see healing in this land. I won't stop. In this land, justice. I won't stop till I see justice in this land. That's right. I won't stop till I see justice in this land. I will fight for justice with love in my heart. I won't stop till I see justice in this land.
Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point in time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. And now, please join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together.
Open the service.
Source of all My mistake. Flora is up next.
We opened the service with an excerpt from Joy Harjo's poem, Remember, which was originally published in 1983. Joy Harjo was named Poet Laureate of the United States in 2019. She is a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation in Oklahoma and has received many honors and awards. She is also a professional singer and saxophonist. Her poem, and the one I will read now, celebrate the natural world. Our 18th century poet is Phillis Wheatley, born in Senegal/Gambia, West Africa. As a young child, she was seized into slavery in 1761 and sold in Boston to John and Susanna Wheatley. The Wheatleys realized that Phillis was precocious and taught her to write and to read the classics. By the time she was 18, Phillis Wheatley had gathered a collection of 28 poems. Unable to find an American publisher willing to accept the work of a slave, the Wheatleys found a publisher in London. Phillis Wheatley's later life was hard. She died in 1784 while her husband was in debtor's prison, predeceased by her children, and alone. Scholars have recently uncovered more about Wheatley's life and her association with 18th century Black abolitionists. Her biographer writes, quote, "Before the end of this century, the full aesthetic, political, and religious implications of her art, and even more salient facts about her life and works will surely be known and celebrated," end of quote. Wheatley's style was very much influenced by an 18th century British classical aesthetic. Here she brings us the beauty of the oncoming night, a thunderstorm, and then clearing. This is A Hymn to the Evening by Phillis Wheatley. Soon as the sun forsook the eastern main, the pealing thunder shook the heavenly plain. Majestic grandeur from the zephyr's wing exhales the incense of the blooming spring. Soft purl the streams, the birds renew their notes, and through the air their mingled music floats. Through all the heavens what beauteous dyes are spread, but the west glories in the deepest red. So may our breasts with every virtue glow, the living temples of our God below, filled with the praise of him who gives the light and draws the sable curtains of the night. Let placid slumbers soothe each weary mind, at morn to wake more heavenly, more refined. So shall the labors of the day begin more pure, more guarded from the snares of sin. Night's leaden scepter seals my drowsy eyes. Then cease my song till fair aurora rise.
And now it's time for us to greet one another. You're invited to turn on your videos, to wave and say hello in the chat. And if you're new or newish and like to, please say hello in the chat and tell us where you're from.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. It's great to see you. Looking forward to seeing you next week at Laurel Park. I hope at least some of you. We're going to be doing it both online via Zoom and YouTube and also in person. And as I said in the announcements, if you missed them, we'll send out lots of information and details this week. So you'll know where to park or prepare for a nice hike, as the case may be. So great to see you all. Paula, we're playing your song. Paula, we've got one of yours for the after the meditation. I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad you're here. Everyone will get to enjoy Paula's playing. I think we're okay, Kathy.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Now it's time for the offering, and Lynn Marie will give the offering words.
This virtual and actual house of light and love stands around us now because those who came before us had a dream and a vision. This community exists today because those who came before us lived a life larger than their own. It is for us to keep faith with them. It is for us to keep faith with the future, with our children, and the others who will someday speak of those who came before. Our meditation is from the poet Audre Lorde, a self-described Black, lesbian, mother, warrior poet. Audre Lorde dedicated both her life and her creative talent to confronting and addressing injustices of racism, sexism, classism, and homophobia. She was born in New York City in 1934 to West Indian parents and worked as a school librarian and a college professor. She once said, "My sexuality is part and parcel of who I am, and my poetry comes from the intersection of me and my worlds." Responding to white arch conservative Senator Jesse Helms, she said, "Helms' objection to my work is not about obscenity or even about sex. It is about revolution and change." Audre Lorde died of cancer in 1992. Our meditation comes from her poem, If You Come Softly. It is a meditation on love and loss and longing. If you come as softly as wind within the trees, you may hear what I hear, see what sorrow sees. If you come as lightly as threading dew, I will take you gladly, nor ask more of you. You may sit beside me silent as a breath. Only those who stay dead shall remember death. And if you come, I will be silent, nor speak harsh words to you. I will not ask you why now, or how, or what you do. We shall sit here softly between two different years, and the rich earth between us shall drink our tears.
Poetry may speak to us of love and loss, and for African-American poets, of brutality in their people's lived experience. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper lived from 1825 to 1911. Both UUs and the African Methodist Episcopal Church have claimed Harper as a member. AME was the church she was raised in, and it was family and home to her. And in a society where color lines were clearly drawn, the Unitarians she knew could help to advance the causes she supported in places she could never go. Poet, author, and lecturer, she was the first African-American woman to publish a short story and was also an influential abolitionist, suffragist, and reformer who co-founded the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs. She advocated for the pursuit of equal rights, job opportunities, and education for African-American women. This is The Slave Mother. Heard you that shriek? It rose so wildly on the air, it seemed as if a burdened heart was breaking in despair. Saw you those sadly clasped, the bowed and feeble head, the shuddering of that fragile form, that look of grief and dread? Saw you the sad, imploring eye? Its every glance was pain, as if a storm of agony were sweeping through the brain. She is a mother, pale with fear. Her boy clings to her side, and in her kirtle vainly tries from his trembling form to hide. He is not hers, although she bore for him a mother's pains. He is not hers, although her blood is coursing through his veins. He is not hers, for cruel hands may rudely tear apart the only wreath of household love that binds her breaking heart. His love has been a joyous light that o'er her pathway smiled, a fountain gushing ever new amid life's desert wild. His lightest word has been a tone of music round her heart. Their lives a streamlet blent in one. Oh, Father, must they part? They tear him from her circling arms, her last and fond embrace. Oh, nevermore may her sad eyes gaze on his mournful face. No marvel then these bitter shrieks disturb the listening air. She is a mother, and her heart is breaking in despair.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long way from home. A long way from home.
Ordinary People, Gwendolyn Brooks. Poetry captures the lives of ordinary people and ordinary moments. Gwendolyn Brooks was a highly regarded and influential 20th century poet. She was the first Black author to win the Pulitzer Prize and the first Black woman to hold the position of poetry consultant to the Library of Congress. Her works range over many topics and ideas, including civil rights. Gwendolyn Brooks was born in 1913 and died in 2000. This is the Bean Eaters. They eat beans mostly, this old yellow pair. Dinner is a casual affair. Plain chipware on a plain and creaking wood, tin flatware, two who are mostly good, two who have lived their day, but keep on putting on their clothes and putting things away. And remembering with twinklings and twinges as they lean over the beans in their rented back room that is full of beads and receipts and dolls and cloths, tobacco crumbs, vases and fringes.
Our final selections remind us that poetry can inspire and encourage us with vision and hope. Our closing words will come from the poem Blessing the Boats by Lucille Clifton. Clifton was born in 1936 and was another highly awarded poet. One commentator notes, Lucille Clifton's poetics of understatement, no capitalization, few strong stresses per line, many poems totaling fewer than 20 lines, the sharp rhetorical questions, includes the essential only. But first, Janet and I are going to read Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb. Amanda Gorman was born and raised in Los Angeles. In 2014, she was named the first Youth Poet Laureate of Los Angeles, and in 2017 was named the first US National Youth Poet Laureate. She's a Harvard graduate and the founder of a nonprofit organization called One Pen, One Page, which runs a youth writing and leadership program. In early 2021, who can forget, she was selected by President-elect Joe Biden to read her original poem, The Hill We Climb, at his inauguration. I'd like to acknowledge that though I can read Amanda Gorman's words, I cannot embody them. Her spoken word poem was written for a particular occasion and, like a dance, was written, so to speak, on her body and her mind. The transfer to another person is a form of translation. The hill we climb. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet, the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow, we do it. Somehow, we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we're striving to form a union that is perfect. We're striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man.
And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare.
It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can periodically be delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation, become the future. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. Every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn balloons as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. Now let's sing the hymn that Amanda Gorman refers to in Vine and Fig Tree.
Just
May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
Thank you all. Go in peace.